Maps. There's quite a bit of them in Phighting. At the time of this video, the current number of maps in Phighting stands at 26, which is quite a lot for a game in alpha, and considering the map vote only holds 3 maps at a time, it offers a good variety in what you end up playing, since you can't just keep picking the same map over and over. Usually. Sometimes the game just throws a map into the vote 3 times in a row, and it wins every vote. But there's actually more. There's quite a lot more. Currently in Phighting, there exists 15 hidden maps, which would bring the total map count up to a grand total of 41. A pretty sharp increase from our original count. And these maps are actually playable by anybody who wishes to. Private servers offer quite a lot of useful commands. You can preset teams, disable sword and bonus rounds, and even force the map. This also allows you to force map to any not currently in the game, as long as it's still in the pool for private servers, of course. Now, with all that said, let's go take a look at the maps Phighting has hidden from you. Some old maps are removed from the public pool, maps used for events like Festival, and maps within 15 minutes just to test something. Let's begin. But before I fully begin, I should explain the 2 categories of hidden maps I'll talk about in this video. First up are the event maps. These are maps that usually appear again for festivals or other occasions such as April Fools. These are usually just older maps that are brought back to the game for a short time. Now, the next category is unused maps. These maps are typically just made for testing something, and as you'll see in the video, it's usually for a new game mode. But occasionally, there's an actually well fleshed out map in here that could maybe see its way in the game someday. Anyways, with the 2 categories explained, let's start off with our first map, Fractured Space. This is pretty much exactly how I described the typical event map. This is an old map that got brought back during festivals. Specifically, Rave vs Relax and Possessed vs Bitten. Out of all the festival maps, this one feels like it's one of the few that's an actual festival map. Because unlike the other maps that got brought back for festivals, Fractured Space has actually received redesigns when it's been brought back, which makes it feel a lot more special and like a proper event map. In the current version of the map, you can actually tell it was redesigned for festivals since the colors on the point match those of Possessed vs Bitten, being lime green and pale blue. Other than that though, nothing here is really specifically about that festival. And Rave vs Relax doesn't seem to have anything. Granted, the image the wiki offers doesn't tell me much. Okay, let's get back to the main point. The actual map itself, and not just references to festivals. Well, from a design standpoint, this is certainly one of the best looking maps. The layout is really unique, it doesn't feel similar to anything currently in the public pool. There's also an abundance of classic Roblox buildings below the map, like the classic house and towers. But, this is a Conquer map. So we should put some focus on the actual point of the map. And I've gotta say, this is the weakest point of the map by far. This point sucks. There's hardly any objects near it. There's no cover, just a massive circle. At most, you've got these little walls here, but this still really isn't much. This is my biggest issue with Fractured Space. It feels pretty style over substance to me. It looks really cool, but when it comes down to the gameplay, it's pretty lackluster. But I still enjoy playing on it because it does feel special during festivals. While it wasn't a part of our last one, sadly, I do hope it shows up for the next one, whenever that is. Next up is another festival map, but this time we have a map that was actually made for festivals. Good old Boom Ball. Oddly enough, this is probably the most unique map out of the ones that are hidden, since this map has its own game mode, being, well, Boom Ball. Boom Ball is basically just soccer inside of Phighting. In the center lies this ball named 7 Dogs, and you've got to push him into the enemy team's goal. And the entire time, you've gotta play Boombox. You have no choice. You're forced to play Boombox, and are given a random skin if you own one. But some tweaks are made to his kit to make this more enjoyable. The metronome was removed, allowing Boombox to reach max charge by just holding down M1. Boombox's M1 now has knockback to move 7 Dogs. Boombox has 50% haste forever, and haste and shield from multiple Boomboxes stack. In short, chaos. Pure Boomball chaos. It's a perfect, beautiful mess. Okay, but what about the map? Is there anything going on here? No, it's just a dome. I looked outside and I couldn't even find any secrets out here. Anyways, 1 minute event because it's silly. When 1 minute occurs, a second 7 Dogs will hit the field, which turns the chaotic game mode into an even more chaotic game mode. Boom Ball is perfection. It's a shame we didn't get it last festival. But there's always next one. Oh, by the way, if you score on the same goal with both 7 Dogs with the right timing, you can just do this. This map is perfect. And here we are at Pizza Palace, our first event map that isn't for festival. Pizza Palace is an April Fool's map which was added partway into the Phighting 4 event, and this has got to be the most perplexing map to me. First of all, this is very obviously just a joke map. I mean, it was made for April Fools. I think that's obvious. It's really, really on the nose with the FNAF references. Little pieces of paper on the wall with biograph on it, resembling the drawings in FNAF. The animatronics in the pizza place. Wait, animatronics? Yeah, this map literally just has the FNAF cast here represented by biographs. And key after key, of course. Officer Bloxer is also just chilling here in an office, staring at the computer monitor. Sound familiar? Also, speaking of biographed, he is abundant here. He's all over the walls, he's literally on stage, hell, he's even an oven. I sure do wonder why the robot fighter is appearing a lot on the FNAF themed map. Hell, the OST for this map is a remix of Smashing Winds from Pizzeria Sim. Wait, OST? This map is an actual song made just for it. This is literally the only map out of all the ones just in private servers that actually has the original song for it. And hell, there's also a unique 1-minute theme. Granted, both really aren't the most high quality themes, of course, but still. There's another April Fool's map that we will get to eventually, and after we've been there, you'll soon realize that the effort put into this map is just perplexing. Oh, also, before I go on to the next map, look at this guy. And now, we return to our festival maps, and unlike our two previous maps being decent, we've been given an actual mistake of map design. Sword Fights in the Heights Revived is straight up the worst map I have ever played on. And hell, it might just hold the title across every game I played and not just Phighting. Playing this map has made me realize why Sword Fight in the Heights needed not one, but 2 remakes. Gotta get as far away from this absolute dumpster of a map as possible. Okay, so what's the issue? Were you looking at the map? It's barren! There's nothing here. It's so desolate. And despite having absolutely nothing of note here, it is host to one of the most disgusting Hyperlaser sightlines ever. Just look at this, the entire map is contested from up here. Boombox also runs rampant here since this is by far the best map for void fishing. Just look at how much void is surrounding the playable area. There is just nothing good about this map at all. With some bad maps, I can usually think of some positives about them, like in the public pool. I dislike King of the Hill, but I do like the 1-minute event as I think the changing of time of day is really cool. I don't like Protect Telemon, but it's got a killer soundtrack. There's nothing with Sword Fight in the Heights Revived. It's just a bad map in every aspect, and I think it's best to not beat a dead horse for too long. Next up is our last festival map. Just like Sword Fight in the Heights Revived. It's an old map, but this time I actually have some things I like about this. Teapots of Doom is an old map that's replaced with Shooting Teapot Observatory during Dove vs. Crow. So, we likely won't be seeing this appear in the game again, but it is still classified as an event map, so we'll still go over it in this section of the video. So, why was this map replaced? Well, surprisingly, it's bad. Well, not bad, but more so fun bad. Basically, it sucks, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't have fun on it still. And fun bad maps are something great to have in every game, but too many can just be annoying. In the public pool, I think Roblox HQ, Hotel Elephant, and Rocket Arena are good enough as is. The Rocket Arena is pushing it. Alright, but what is the actual map itself? Well, it's a pretty small island that also is susceptible to the rampant void fishing, but this time it's a pretty boxed-in map that allows for some pretty chaotic team fights. On Annihilate, that is. No sugarcoating it, but this map is garbage on Conquer because the point is put on the highest area of the map. If you don't have vertical mobility, you are going to take quite a long time to get up there. This point also suffers a similar issue as Nuke the Whale's point, where Boombox can very easily just push you off of it, wasting a ton of time for no real effort on Boombox's part. Overall, the actual design of the map, though, is pretty boring. I'm more interested in the stupid spots you can get into, like this little tower here, or even this mountain off in the ocean with skateboard. This one isn't even practical at all, I just think it's funny. Alright, so, remember when I mentioned during Pizza Palace that the other April Fool's map didn't have anywhere close to my effort of Pizza Palace? Well, here we are. Yes, this is the whole map. Dark Heart's Revenge is literally just a base plate. There is no gimmick. Nothing special here. Okay, well that is kind of a lie. Every round on this map will always be a multiplier round, which technically means voting for this map when it was in the pool was optimal. But now it's condemned to just private servers, so no more money. And that's literally it. I've got nothing else, man. It's just a base plate. And now we're on to the unused maps. Here we primarily have maps made for testing, but we still have some maps that are pretty interesting to talk about. And spoiler, none of them are the testing maps. So I'll just get over with them so I can talk about the more interesting maps. I'm going to start with 2 maps at the same time, Canada and Coliseum. Now the main reason I'm talking about these maps together is because they're very similar to each other. Both are based on maps from Overwatch, being New Queen Street and Coliseum. Now when it comes to the maps themselves, there's not really much to talk about here, I'll be honest with you. Canada is pretty straightforward and nothing interesting about it, and all Coliseum has is funny models like SpongeBob and Heavy. So the main thing of interest here, to me at least, is the game mode, Escort. So, Escort is a somewhat similar game mode to Conquer, in the way that both teams have to stand on a point. But this time, the point moves. You guys stay on or near the point to keep it moving to get points. Overall, something that I think could be pretty cool to see in fighting, as it'd have a pretty huge impact on the meta, since that's a third whole game mode available, and Escort is fun. It's a very nice change of pace and plays pretty well, though I might be biased since I'm giving a bit of leniency based on the less than stellar maps we have. Now back to the maps, since I don't really have much to say about them, which of them do I think is better? Well, for me, I have to say Canada's a better map, and by quite a bit. It's just much cleaner looking to me, while Coliseum is pretty over the place. Next map we have is another testing map for Escort, but it's a little different from our previous two maps. This time, it's a reworked version of Roblox model to fit the game mode more. I don't think this works. A lot of stuff had to be removed to make room for the point to actually move. The cage in the center is gone, everything on the sides is gone. It just removes stuff for a game mode that doesn't really work on this map. But it is just for testing after all, and we aren't going to see Maul get Escort in-game. Mainly because I feel Escort maps have to be solely designed around the game mode, because of just how different it is from Conquer and Annihilate. The objective is moving, so the map's gotta be pretty big and designed around the central point people will be fighting at, not being in a fixed location. But it also can't be too open like an Annihilate map. Onto our next testing map, sadly. And now, we're at my limit. Similar to Canada and Coliseum, I'll be talking about the next two maps together. Test and Test 2. You probably already understand why I'm doing that based on the names alone. These are both just old maps repurposed for Escort testing, with Test being Old Bandland and Test 2 being a map from Phighting 2 Godzilla Man's Wrath. And I just have nothing to say about either because I pretty much said all there is about Escort. I guess these maps suck. Old Bandland really wasn't that good, and this map is just a literal straight line. I'm gonna move on to talking about something more interesting. After this map, we'll have the three maps that could potentially see the light of day in public fighting, but before we get into them, let's bridge the gap with a map not made for testing, but rather, a trailer. Scythe's trailer map is actually fully playable inside of private servers. Granted, it's just a tweaked copy of Chaos Canyon, however. Which raises the question, could this replace current Chaos Canyon? No, this sucks in comparison to Chaos Canyon. None of the changes here were made with gameplay in mind. It was made to be a cool map for a trailer, and that it succeeded in because it looks much better than Chaos Canyon. The biggest issue with this map from a gameplay perspective is that it's an Annihilate map and it's not symmetrical, which I think is an insanely important part of an Annihilate map. You can have a tiny bit of asymmetrical design, like Hotel Elephant has an asymmetrical mid, and that's fine, because the issue people have with this map is the fact that it's small, but regardless. An asymmetrical map to this degree is pretty bad, especially for Annihilate, more so than the other two game modes. Oh, and also this little under area that's accessible in Chaos Canyon is just blocked off by rocks. I have zero idea if this was intentional or not, but you can't go here anymore. Okay, now on to silly stuff. There's no invisible walls here, so you can just go anywhere you want. You can even go onto this unused train chilling in the void. But, more importantly, if we go up here, we can find a Scythe model, and you can push it. Good luck getting it to wherever you actually want it to go, though. But, I must ask you a question. What's better than one Scythe model you can push? Two Scythe models you can push. Yeah, so if you just go up to this area and next to the lone Scythe model, there's just two more. I'm not gonna question why there's three of them, and just move on because we're out of things to talk about here. And here we are, the actual maps that are hidden. These maps are actually functional. They're in a pretty finished state, but for one reason or another, they have been relegated to just being in private servers. And our first map up is Land of the Silent Sun. Based on the 2008 game with the same name, this is an incredibly interesting map. It's very large and pretty complex, taking place in a little valley of a Japanese aesthetic. The map is surrounded with mountains. In the distance behind them, massive towers and trees loom over the valley. This map is cool. It's such a standout of how massive it is, the lack of any real colors or textures, its design, I love it. But we need to discuss how big it is. This could very easily be a big problem due to ranged classes getting massive silence on people. But I feel this map does a very good job at alleviating that issue of rocks, trees, and other structures, doing a good job at making the sightlines manageable. Another cool detail I like is the permanent hazard of water. Usually on most maps, water is just used as a kill floor, but this map has Laundromat's take on water. Being in the water will just damage you instead of killing you, which is for the best because look at how much water there is here. Overall, a really unique map that I'd love to see in game. But considering it's been in private servers for over a year now, I doubt it. This map does seem a little unfinished still, and spawn is pretty bad. It's very open, has no protection. Hell, I'd argue the rocks here offer protection for the enemy team. But that's all I've got to say about this map. On to the next. Next up, we have Sunset Plain. A map added on the same day as Land of the Silent Sun actually. So we can probably guess the likelihood of this map actually getting added based on that. Just like Silent Sun, this is based off an old Roblox game, having the same name as the map and releasing in 2006. When it comes to aesthetics, I much prefer this over Silent Sun. While Silent Sun is very unique and a nice change of pace, I just love the vibrant and pretty colors here. This map also has an autumn aesthetic, which is my favorite season, so it wins points there. This map is also much smaller, which is really nice as they make for more chaotic fights, which I enjoy. The middle part of the map is also pretty small, making it a pretty unfavorable spot to fight in, which I actually like. On so many maps, people just congregate to mid and it gets kind of stale, so having mid be a pretty poor area to fight in is a really nice change of pace, as it encourages people to fight in areas different from the middle. But I can easily tell why this map isn't in the game, and it's all because of this lower area. This lower area has a constant stream of water that pushes the player back. Now that's fine, but what isn't is how you get out of this area and back up. There's no stairs or geysers here. Instead, a teleporter that puts you in a prime position to just jump back down and into the teleporter again. You can probably see the issue. Geyser camping is already insane, so being able to teleport camp is just absurd. Someday I'd love to see that changed however, and for this map to be in the actual game. It's really pretty and would also serve as a nice change of pace due to how unique the layout is. And now we have arrived at our last map, Sword Fighting Tournament. Like the other two, is based on a Roblox game with the same name released in 2009. I actually played this one before and it was pretty fun. It's just a simple fighting game in the style of a tournament of Roblox swords. It's almost like this why it's named Sword Fighting Tournament. Unlike both other two maps, this is not an old one. Not at all. This was added last month on the 30th, so it's still pretty new to fighting. To me, this will likely end up like Roblox Arcade did, being put in private server testing first and later added into the main game during a festival or event of sorts. So what is this map? Well, to me, it's the perfect combination of Silent Sun and Sunset Plains. Kind of. It's got the size of Silent Sun and the great looks of Sunset Plain. Combined, it creates an insanely cool map, but also an insanely unique one from a layout perspective. However, it'd be unfair if I didn't point out a massive issue in this map. Really big sightlines. This map lacks cover in some areas, unlike Silent Sun, so ranged classes can run pretty rampant here. So I think some extra cover is in order in some areas, to help melee classes play around range better and gap close a bit easier. But other than that, I don't have many other issues with this map. Hell, it's even got something that I would kill for most maps to have: proper spawn protection. You can't enter the enemy team spawn and they can't shoot you from it either, but what they forgot to do is add collision to the part above the spawn protector, allowing you to just get in. It's not even hard to do and nearly every class can bypass the spawn protection, but it's a thought that counts, right? Back on the positives. This map has a lot of cool details around it. There's posters of Abandoned Sword, a scoreboard above the center. There's an MVP screen also. It does a great job at fitting its name and feel like we're in a real tournament. It also gives me a good amount of nostalgia. It really does remind me when I used to play the actual game. This map is just really cool. It's just one of the few classic Roblox games I actually care about, which gives it a slight more of a personal connection to me. This map is also a hybrid map, which makes it nice because we need more of those in my opinion. But there's a good chance it'll only keep one of the two game modes, more likely Annihilate. I based this off of Roblox Arcade's time in testing, as it was also a hybrid map, but on launch ended up becoming just a Conquer map. And that's about it for this map, and every hidden map. A good way to end things off, I'd say. So, what's your favorite map then? Here's a really quick ranking of all of them from me. Darko's Revenge, Test 2, Test, Mall Payload, Coliseum, Canada, Scythe Trailer, T-Boat to Doom, Fractured Space, Pizza Palace, Boomball, Land of the Silent Sun, Sunset Plain, and Sword Fighting Tournament. Overall, a very inconsistent selection of maps and too much goddamn escort. I guess it's only natural for so many escort testing maps since adding a whole new game mode is a big thing, and they don't cause any real harm. It just drove me a bit insane while making this video. But now that I've talked about all the unused maps, why not talk about the maps currently in game? Well, I think I'll definitely be doing that in the future, so if you want to see that, I'd highly recommend subscribing. With all that said, I'm done for now. See you later.